You added an extra session, pushed every set closer to failure, and told yourself more must mean better. 3 weeks later, your lifts have gone backward. You dread the gym instead of looking forward to it, and you are exhausted even after a full night of sleep. These are the classic signs of overtraining, and they catch even experienced lifters off guard because the whole culture around training tells you that more effort always equals more progress. It doesn't. And understanding exactly where that line sits is what separates lifters who keep making steady gains for years from the ones who burn out and quit every few months. Let's start with what overtraining actually is. It happens when the total stress you place on your body through volume, intensity, and frequency consistently outpaces your capacity to recover from it. Every hard workout creates a temporary dip in performance and a bit of muscle damage. Normally, sleep, food, and rest days let your body repair that damage and come back slightly stronger, a cycle called supercompensation. Overtraining is what happens when that cycle breaks down. You keep adding stress, session after session, without ever closing the recovery gap from the last one. So what does overtraining actually look like? The clearest physical sign is performance that stalls or reverses. If your squat, bench, or deadlift numbers have been flat or dropping for more than 2 or 3 weeks despite consistent training, your body is telling you it cannot keep up with what you're asking of it. Right alongside that is persistent fatigue that sleep doesn't fix. Normal training tiredness clears up after a good night's rest. Overtraining fatigue lingers. You wake up tired, stay tired all day, and the gym starts feeling like a chore instead of something you look forward to. Many lifters also notice their resting heart rate creeping up, sometimes 5 to 10 beats per minute above normal. This happens because your nervous system stays in a low-level stress state, never fully downshifting into rest, even while you're sitting still. On top of that, small nagging injuries start showing up in places that never used to bother you, because tendons and joints recover more slowly than muscle does, and unrecovered training hits them hardest. You might also notice you're getting sick more often, since heavy unrecovered training suppresses immune function. And counterintuitively, sleep itself often gets worse, not better, as elevated stress hormones make it harder to fall asleep or stay asleep even though you're objectively exhausted. Overtraining doesn't stay confined to your muscles and joints either. It hits your mood and motivation just as hard. And for a lot of lifters, these mental signs actually show up first. Training that used to feel exciting starts to feel like something you dread. You might notice yourself becoming unusually irritable or emotionally flat. Brain fog and trouble concentrating creep in because overtraining doesn't just tax your muscles, it taxes your whole central nervous system. Some lifters even develop a low-grade anxiety specifically around their upcoming workouts, a sharp contrast to the confidence a normal working training plan usually brings. Now, how do you tell this apart from just being sore? Normal muscle soreness fades in 24 to 72 hours and doesn't touch your mood or your sleep. Overtraining is different. It lasts for weeks, keeps getting worse, and bleeds into every part of your life, your mood, your sleep, your motivation, not just your muscles. If what you're feeling only matches normal soreness, you're fine. If it checks several of those other boxes, especially a performance decline lasting more than 2 weeks, it's time to adjust. It's worth knowing that overtraining looks a little different depending on how you train. Strength-focused lifters usually notice it first in the numbers. A weight that moved easily for weeks suddenly grinds. Bodybuilding-focused lifters more often notice it through slower recovery and nagging tendon pain, since higher training volume spreads the fatigue across more muscle groups. Endurance athletes typically see it first through resting heart rate and effort at a given pace, and beginners are actually less prone to true overtraining, simply because they haven't yet built up the capacity to apply enough stress to outpace their recovery in the first place. So what actually causes it? It's rarely one single workout. It builds gradually from a combination of things stacking on top of each other. Jumping your training volume up too fast without a gradual ramp is one of the biggest triggers. So is training near failure on every single set, every single session, which accumulates central nervous system fatigue much faster than leaving a rep or two in the tank. Skipping rest days because you feel like you should always be doing something adds to it. So does chronic undereating, not giving your body enough calories, protein, or carbohydrate to actually repair the damage between sessions. Poor sleep shrinks your recovery capacity dramatically, since most of your physical recovery happens during deep sleep. And outside life stress counts too. Your body doesn't distinguish neatly between training stress and everything else going on in your life. The good news is you don't need expensive gear to catch this early. Track your morning resting heart rate for a few weeks to establish your normal baseline, then watch for a sustained rise. Keep a simple training log of your weights, reps, and how each session felt, so patterns become obvious instead of just a vague feeling. Rate how hard each set feels on a 1 to 10 scale, and if that rating keeps climbing for the same weight and reps, that's a direct measurable sign your recovery is falling behind. And once a week, just ask yourself honestly, am I excited to train today? Did I sleep well? Do my usual weights feel normal? Two or more no's, several weeks running, is a clear signal to back off. So let's talk about actually recovering from it. The most important step, and the one people resist the most, is reducing your training volume and intensity first. Cut your sets by roughly a third to a half, back off from training to failure, and give your body a real chance to catch up. This doesn't mean stopping entirely, just training noticeably lighter for a week or two. Prioritize sleep above everything else, aiming for 7 to 9 hours consistently. Eat enough to actually recover. This is not the time for an aggressive calorie deficit. Make sure you're getting enough total calories, protein, and carbohydrate. Add genuinely easy movement, not more training. Walking, light cycling, or mobility work keeps blood flowing without adding more stress. And give it real time. Mild overtraining caught early often resolves in 1 to 2 weeks. More severe, longer-standing cases can take for 12 weeks of meaningfully reduced training to fully bounce back. Here's what a real recovery week looks like in practice. The first 2 days, full rest from structured training. Light walking is fine. Focus entirely on sleep and eating enough. Days 3 through 5, return to the gym, but cut your working sets by roughly half and stop every set 3 to 4 reps short of failure. Days 6 and 7, continue at reduced volume, paying attention to how each session actually feels compared to the week before. And from week to onward, gradually rebuild your volume and intensity back toward normal over another week or two, rather than jumping straight back to your previous load in one session. A lot of what makes overtraining feel so miserable comes down to hormones. Hard training raises cortisol, which in small, well-recovered doses is exactly what helps you push through a tough session. The problem starts when cortisol stays elevated because your body never gets a real chance to recover between sessions. Chronically high cortisol interferes with testosterone production, disrupts deep sleep, and pushes your body towards storing fat and breaking down muscle instead of building it, the exact opposite of what you're training for. The encouraging part is that this is almost always reversible. Cortisol levels typically normalize within 1 to 3 weeks of reduced training stress, proper sleep, and consistent eating. Watch out for a few common mistakes that make all of this worse. Trying to train through it just digs the hole deeper. Only resting for a day or two isn't enough. Real recovery usually needs a week or more. Cutting calories at the same time you're trying to recover backfires, since recovery requires energy availability. And ignoring the mental signs, the irritability, the anxiety around training, the low motivation, is just as big a mistake as ignoring a stalled lift. The best fix for overtraining is never needing to recover from it in the first place. Build your training volume up gradually, keep most sets a rep or two short of failure, and save true failure training for occasional, planned moments. Schedule real rest days instead of treating them as optional, and pay attention to your own early warning signs. A planned deload week roughly every 4 to 8 weeks, where you deliberately cut volume or intensity by 40 to 50%, is one of the most effective tools for staying ahead of overtraining entirely. It feels unnecessary right up until the week you actually need it. The signs of overtraining, stalled performance, persistent fatigue, mood changes, and disrupted sleep are your body's way of telling you your recovery has fallen behind your training. The fix is rarely complicated. Reduce volume for a week or two, sleep more, eat enough, and let real recovery catch up before ramping intensity back up. Lifters who listen to these signals early keep making steady progress for years. The ones who push through them usually end up losing far more training time than they would have lost by simply backing off for a week. Full breakdown, with the complete recovery week plan and every warning sign explained, is linked below.